Okay, I'm going to visit just a little bit about the unit on negotiations, and we talked a little bit about win-win negotiations and how that might be approached. First of all, you're going to have to excuse me. I'm sitting in my basement, and I just got through reading all your negotiation stories, and I didn't even bother to go change shirts, so I hope you don't mind. But anyway, it was really interesting to hear about the uh, various aspects of negotiations that occurred in many of your schools, and quite a few of you talked about being very similar to what Jeff Page was doing at Columbus when he was there, and I think you got an idea of what that might be. And there was some discussion about the makeup of various negotiations committees, and I think all of you expressed how you felt about your particular one. The one area that some of you didn't do as well on was where we talked about what would you do as a board member, how would you approach that. And part of it is that question is to put you in the role of the adversary in most cases of the board, what they're after. And very few of you talked about protecting certain management prerogatives, and also financially making the point that finances in your school might be difficult to do everything you want to do, but also to express an interest in what the teachers want and try to understand what their priority is. The other thing that I thought was really kind of interesting, three of you have been the chief of negotiations for your teacher association. One of the points that I always try to make with my board was to think about what that teacher role might be, and I always try to get them to think about the best teacher on staff. You're talking about negotiations, let's talk about the best teacher. Let's not think about the teacher you're not satisfied with. And I think it was always somewhat helpful to have that thought. The the other thing is to appreciate the pressure that the negotiations team may be under. And there were a couple times with negotiations that we knew we were above the array, and the board wasn't really excited about giving up a whole lot because they felt like they were already in good shape that way. And one of the points that I try to make to them is, they have to go back with something. They can't have spent 2 months negotiating and not gained a single thing. And I think the board agreed with that there was some language that they could live with that probably had to be balanced. And one of the things we had was a sick leave policy that was way above what anybody else around had. And of course, that was always the concern that they would lose that if they negotiated too hard on certain issues. And so sometimes board members would want to use that as a chip, and I think that was probably not very positive. Most of you, I think, especially in smaller schools, the superintendent was seen as an advisor, and probably most people thought they were on the side of the board, which may or may not be true. But I think you saw that there was a need to have someone to bring ideas to the two groups, and that really I hoped was my role. The first couple years that I was the superintendent, I guess the first year, traditionally the superintendent had not been involved at all in negotiations, and it seemed like they were going late into the fall previous years. And after the first year, why it was determined that I would sit in on negotiations sessions, and I think it worked out pretty well. We never came close to not settling, and maybe when they're close, you could throw something out that would be beneficial to both. And one of the ones that was most interesting was one year at my first school. They were really kind of locked on a certain amount. They didn't want to give up the $50 on the base, And I finally threw out to, actually they had negotiations with my next door neighbor, and we were pretty good friends, and I said, you know, why don't we throw out long-term disability insurance as a way to meet in between, and we did that, and it worked for both sides. Both said, yeah, that's a good deal. And over the years, several times, why that long-term disability paid off for some of our teachers. So I sometimes think that that's you know what win-win negotiations is trying to come up with some ideas that'll help both sides. But so you had some good ideas, some good discussion, and as I mentioned, a few of you didn't really comment much about what you would do as a board member, and so some of the scores weren't quite as high, but you're all doing a pretty good job. So we're heading into the last week here, so everything is up, so you can work as fast as you want, and before long you'll be out on the beach.